Hello, it is Quinn, and I am up to something again. As some of you may know, because I have yammered about it on here, I am in training to become a facilitator for ketamine. This is not to say I will prescribe. I cannot prescribe. I am an idiot. But I can be a person who sits with somebody who is going through ketamine treatment for any one of a number of conditions, and I can be of service while they're doing the work. We're now caught up. I want to talk about all the stuff that I'm learning and reading. This is how I live my life. It's like I take in a bunch of stuff and then I'm like, and now you will all know. But I can't really do it on TikTok because it's going to be a lot of code words and it's going to be a lot of nonsense. And I would rather get information out and not euphemisms. If everybody's having to figure out what the hell I'm saying, people are frequently trying to figure out what the hell I'm saying. Let's not make it worse. So here is how I have currently planned to do this. I'm going back to the tube of you, euphemism, and I'm going to do things I'm going to call ketaminutes. I know. In the 17 hours it took me to drive back from Denver, I thought that was a fantastic name. It's possible my car has a light gas leak into the car itself, because I just thought it was wonderful and I can't think of a better one, so we're going with it. I will talk about what I know, what I don't know. If someone asks me a question, I will endeavor to answer it. And a lot of my answers are going to be, you should not be asking an idiot on the internet about that. You should be asking your doctor. I will freely step away when I have no business answering it. But let me give you a little sense right now of what it's going to be like. Let's begin with the history of ketamine. Unlike a lot of the hallucinogenic drugs that are being talked about right now for potential mental health benefits and some degree of physical health benefits, ketamine was not born in a field or under a dead tree stump or mixed together two different plants turned into a tea. Ketamine was born in a lab in 1962. It was meant to be an improvement upon a prior drug which had really great properties in that it was dissociative, which meant that people did not feel like they were in their bodies anymore, and it was analgesic, which means that people didn't feel pain. There was only one problem with the previous drug, and you may guess what that problem was when I tell you that the medication ketamine was supposed to replace was PCP. So in effect, what they were saying was, can we get the dissociation and the pain relieving without the portal to hell? Chemists went, say less. We can make that. 1962, it's created. 1970, it is approved to be in the field of combat in Vietnam. Ketamine is fantastic when everything else is going to hell. Because if you are out in the field, you want the patient as calm as you can get them and not screaming in agony so that you can do what you need to do while you wait for the helicopter to come in. Ketamine is now obviously used in ERs and ICUs, and it's part of the recipe book for an anesthesiologist, but it's one of the few which can really be taken out into the field where medics would just have a syringe full of it and be, bam, now you just rest now. So that's 1970. 1972, a Mexican psychotherapist writes a paper and says, is anybody else noticing some real improvement with depression post-ketamine? So in case you were wondering if this is new, it's very much not. I mean, people who were around ketamine noticed it early on. Then why didn't it start right then? The war on drugs. Because it changed consciousness, it was viewed as inherently dangerous. And there is a potential for abuse, which I will continue to talk about, but today I'm going to stick with the history of it. So that data was sort of anecdata. It never really got out. and you'd see occasional papers during the 70s, during the 80s. But if you read longer looks at ketamine, the history of ketamine, there's inevitably this gap. It's like they found it, or they created it, Vietnam, a couple of people are noticing this, and then suddenly we're talking about the club kids. I think I know why. Everything I just told you, those are facts. Now we're heading into baseless speculation. Ketamine, for the same reason it works really well in the field, works really well with animals. Yes, I know we're also animals, but I'm talking like quadrupeds in vets' offices because it is a very mechanistic drug. The dosage hinges on the weight. So you got a big racehorse, you got a kitty cat who needs her spaying. The only difference is, all right, how much are they getting? We can measure this, and it clears the body relatively quickly. Fun fact, the only animals so far they know where it does the opposite, snails. It really revs snails up. But why do I think that vets, and I do, I think they have something to do with the club kids? Because if you are in a hospital, even back in the 70s and 80s, yeah, you could get your hands not legally on a bunch of medication. But it wasn't quite as easy as getting it at a vet's office. Vets are very professional, but there's more turnover in the vet techs. They tend to be younger. They're certainly trained, but if you are a young person who maybe doesn't necessarily view what you're doing as your life's calling, and you're very much about the club life, and several days a week you see an animal be dosed exactly and go into just big nap. Yeah, it's attractive. Some part of you, if you have that sort of mind, is going to think, I wonder. I think the club kids worked at vet offices, or at least the earliest ones did. I'll leave it for that for today.